So Aaron, I just have one quick announcement right as soon as you open the meeting, and then we can go on through the agenda if that's okay.
Guess I'll go ahead and start it. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody out. Jamie?
Yes, so I just want to let everybody know, we received some feedback from stakeholders, either attending virtually or tuning into the live stream. Thank you, Charlie, for last week. But I am going to ask everybody that if you are speaking, please speak into the mic. That way the audience can hear. We appreciate it. Thank you.
All righty, and first thing on the agenda, thank you. First thing on the agenda is to approve last month's minutes. So there's no discussion, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Minutes are approved. All right, our speaker today is Nina, who we all know. Nina, why don't you come on up?
Wherever you're more comfortable.
Okay.
You are totally fine either place. And did we get that PDF?
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
I think I know everyone, but I'm Nina Flegel. I'm the Executive Director of Main Street Chestertown. For anyone who does not know, Main Street Chestertown is a 501c3 based in Chestertown, and we are part of a national network of Main Streets. So there's 33 in Maryland. We are the only accredited Main Street in Kent County. Rock Hall does have a Main Street program. They're an affiliate. They're just not large enough to be a freestanding accredited member. And then Main Street America, which is based out of Chicago, is under the umbrella of the National Historic Trust. So that's sort of our grandparent company. Main Street in Chestertown was actually originally started in 2008. It kind of got up and going. It was commissioned to be started by the Chestertown Mayor and Council. When the bad R word hit in 2008, things just sort of went dormant for a little while. They kept up the 501c3 status and things like that, but it just wasn't very active. When my predecessor, Kay McIntosh, came on as the Chestertown Economic Development Coordinator, she was tasked with not only resurrecting the Main Street program, but also implementing the Arts and Entertainment District in Chestertown as well. The good news is she did so well that both of those things needed to sort of break away from the town and be freestanding. They needed their own boards, they needed their own staff, they needed to be able to grow. So as you may know, A&E went over to be under the Kent Cultural Alliance. Hester Sash actually runs that program. They have their own advisory council. And then Main Street, we're still a 501c3, but we're sort of freestanding at this point. But we still have close ties to the town. My office is in Town Hall. I always compare it to we are the child that moved out to go to college, but come home to do our laundry and ask for money. We are unique, especially among Maryland Main Streets, in that we do not actually have a parent umbrella company. Most of the other Maryland Main Streets are under economic development alliances, CDCs, the town, things like that. We're one of the few. There are more that are kind of headed our way. One of the reasons that we broke off is just because it was awkward having two different sets of initiatives, and for me, two bosses, answering both to the town council and to my own board. So that made it a little more cleaner. And then also because since the Chestertown town staff is small, they needed help and assistance fulfilling some of their sort of roles, staff roles. And we were happy to pick that up, but we figured out that if we were a freestanding 501c3, we could access a lot more funding and a lot more support that the town was not eligible for on behalf of the town. So one of the programs that we've had from the very beginning that has grown exponentially is our facade improvement grant program. This is not something new. Other towns in Maryland and in the United States do it. We have one of the longest running ones. We've been doing it at least once, sometimes twice a year since 2017 with pretty pictures. Rose, if you don't mind going to the to the next slide. Because this is one of the more visible economic development and tourism initiatives for us, Jamie thought it might be a good idea to just kind of give you an update on the program. So the way it works is a lot of our funding for this program comes from Department of Housing and Community Development on the state level. They have set aside funds specifically for facade improvement just for main streets that we are eligible for. So this is kind of a new development. There's always been state revitalization funds that we have tapped for this program. They have recognized that the facade improvement programs have grown so much that they've now set aside on the state level separate funding just for facade improvement. The state revitalization is still there. We can still access it, but they've sort of changed that fund to be to have a broader use so that now we can access it to do things like we just put in a commercial LEED certified kitchen for a waterman's wife downtown. It can be used for, the state revitalization can be used for sprinkler systems, HVAC, the really sexy stuff on a building that often the tenant certainly shouldn't be paying for, but the business owner can't necessarily afford to bring to the standard that something like a restaurant might need. So then these facade improvement funds can be used for the outside of a building or can be used for some other exterior projects. So each municipality or each main street is allowed to set their own rules and regulations around it. And we'll make sure to email all this to you as well. The way we do it is we do have a 6-member panel that's made up of local architects, engineers, designers, things of that nature. So we have people like John Hutchinson, Joe Phillips, Justin Taylor on ours. We have a few contractors, things like that. So people who know what they're talking about. So certainly once a year in March, this year we got extra funding. We were able to also open an application round this September. It's going on right now. Commercial property owners or commercial property tenants anywhere within the historic district are eligible to apply. They are eligible to apply because our entire historic district is in a sustainable opportunity zone. So that's sort of the state requirement, is that it be in a sustainable zone. They are able to apply for up to $20,000. This is, it is a 1-for-1 match. So we do require a 50% match from the business owner unless it's under about $2,000. So for example, if they're just utilizing it to do a sign for their business, we're not going to have them match. But for some of these larger projects that we'll show you pictures of, usually the $20,000 is no stretch because it's, you know, $1 million project. So, yeah.
I just noticed a confused look on Nancy's face. A sustainable community. Is that what you were looking? Okay. I'm sorry, your face, but, so. You
I
said-
regularly
That's
confuse
okay,
Nancy.
that's
It's
okay.
fine.
Figuring out her math.
Okay, so as long as it's in a sustainable community, am I
Correct.
correct that that's how, okay.
And it
I
must
wanna
be
make sure that we're-
zoned commercial, and at least locally, we also deem that even if it's just a commercial property, that the use has to also be commercial. So we are not looking to renovate apartment buildings. Yes, they are technically commercial properties, but we're really looking at businesses, retail, restaurants, kind of public use buildings, if you will. So, like I said, they're, you know, up to $20,000, and we can, you just scroll as you will, but this is some of the work that is covered. So what we're looking at, especially because this is ultimately has to go before, not just us, also has to go before the Chestertown Historic District Commission. It also has to go before Maryland Historical Trust. They're the ones that are kind of controlling this whole thing. And the reason they control us and not necessarily other Main Street facade programs is because, and not a lot of people know this, the entire town of Chestertown is a National Historic Landmark. We are one of 66 National Historic Landmarks as towns in the United States. It's few and far between, which is awesome, and it means that we can do a lot of things, but it also means the entire town is under some pretty strict regulations from NHT and MHD. So they give their final sign-off. Honestly, their rules are not as strict as our local HDC, so usually it's not a problem. And what we're looking for is not routine maintenance. We're looking for anything that's enhancing or improving the building anything that's making it more sustainable, or anything that's bringing it back to its historical roots. So again, because we're kind of working with HDC and getting these applicants prepped for HDC, we're doing anything we can to make suggestions on types of materials, on aesthetics. We give preference to projects that are working with professional architects or designers because we know they're picking the right things and they're doing it the right way. So it can be, but it can be as simple as I need a sign for my new business as well. So the application process I sort of alluded to, they apply to us. We go through a pretty rigorous process to review it. We, at the same time, they're also getting approval by HDC. We send it to Maryland Historical Trust, they sign off, and then the applicant is given a letter of approval with how much they were approved for. They have to start the project within 6 months and finish it within a year of receiving that letter. So we're looking for projects that are ready to go. Because we hold the application periods relatively regularly, a lot of the times I will sort of mention to people, hey, maybe you should wait for September, and apply then, sort of thing. So we're looking for shovel-ready projects, and for the fact that the owners already have some funding in place. So these are just some of our outcomes in the last 5 or 6 years. So about 25 projects to date. We'll probably have about 6 more on the docket in about a month. So we've invested ourselves close to $300,000. That's now going to be at the end of the fall close to $4 million, just sort of investment in the downtown just for facade improvement. And then, like I said, we always have an application period in March. That's with DHCD funding. We were able to open another one this fall because we were lucky to receive some ARPA funding to go towards this type of thing. And then, if you keep scrolling, Rose, if you don't mind, just some of the projects, that we've taken a part in. Some of the bigger ones are things like Watershed. Some of the others are, keep scrolling. No, you're fine. You're fine. A recent one is Walnut and Wool. So this was a combination project of both our facade and we just did a pedestrian lighting project. So we received money to put in both facade lighting and display window lighting for all of our local businesses at no cost to them. This also meant that we were able to develop lighting guidelines for the entire historic district, which has since been adopted by HDC. So now there's a handbook for going forward so that we don't have bright blue LED light and we don't have up lights into people's apartment building windows. And so I think they were actually grateful that we went through this very painful process to come up with these guidelines and these handbooks, which are now leading to increased lighting. Since, as you know, before this, if you went downtown in Chestertown at night, it was a little bit of a black hole. So we're trying to do as much as we can with facade lighting and landscape lighting to alleviate that. Here's another one. A lot of people knew it as the Newland Building. So this one actually has received 2 facade grants, one under Peter Newland when he was working on it, and then a more recent one under Julie Santaboni when she was finishing the project on Park Row as well. That was a large reconstruction project. So the reason I'm showing this one again is because there are a few projects that do not necessarily have a private owner, but that we as Main Street have felt that these funds would benefit the most people. So one thing, I'm sure if you've driven through Chestertown, you see the mess that is Park Row right now. We are bricking the sidewalk and rebuilding the curb along Park Road. That also includes